Welcome to the Dell Storage Manager Day-to-Day Management video, Part 1, Managing PS Series Groups. This video covers many of the daily management tasks for the PS Series groups performed using Dell Storage Manager rather than Group Manager. To start off, let's explore the Dell Storage Manager interface. As shown here, Dell Storage Manager can manage both PS Series groups and storage center arrays. The interface is arranged as a hierarchical tree for each type of storage. In the top section, Total Storage Used covers both the storage center usage and the PS group usage. The next section below it covers the storage center information. Below that is the PS groups, and below that is FluidFS clusters in case you're managing FluidFS as well. For this video, we're going to focus on the PS group section. With the PS groups object selected on the left, the total group information is shown regarding the usage, the PS groups managed by Dell Storage Manager, and the storage summary. To add an additional PS group to Dell Storage Manager, either click on Add PS Group from the upper right-hand corner, or right-click PS Groups and select Add PS Group. Most tasks can be accomplished through built-in buttons or through the right-clicking in the appropriate object. To finish adding the PS group, enter the host name or IP address and the username and password for the group, and click Finish. When the PS group is finished being added, it automatically shows the Summary tab selected across the top. The information shown by default on the summary screen is the status of the group, the summary of the storage showing space in use, as well as delegated space, storage pool information, and any current alerts. The summary screen is configurable by clicking on Select Summary Plugins. This allows the inclusion or exclusion of specific information on the summary screen, and also allows the reordering of the information shown on the summary screen. If changes are made, be sure to click the OK button. The Actions button allows the creation of a replication partner with an SC array. This button is covered in our cross-platform replication paper and video. The Move button will move the PS group to a folder within the hierarchy if desired. The Delete button will delete the selected PS group from Dell Storage Manager, and the Launch Group Manager button will launch the familiar Group Manager application, on which we will not spend any time here. Moving to the Storage tab across the top provides the same buttons in the upper right-hand corner as the Summary tab, and with the group object selected in the middle section, storage in use is shown. Additionally, below the PS group object is a hierarchy for volumes and access, which we'll come back to. The Monitoring tab provides access to event and audit logs, monitoring of inbound and outbound replication, as well as replication history. As a note, the inbound and outbound replication monitoring shown here will also display any PS group to PS group replication information. The Alerts tab simply shows any alerts for the selected PS group. To manage the PS group, go back to the Storage tab. Selecting the Volumes object provides two new buttons in the upper right-hand corner, Create Volume and Create Volume Folder. In this case, to make it easier to manage the volumes, I'm going to create a volume folder. Enter the name of the volume folder and any other notes that you would like to include in the description, and click OK. With the volume folder selected, we now have the Edit Settings action item, which allows us to change the name and notes that we just entered. If you do make changes, remember to click OK. And we have Delete to delete the volume folder, and we have Create Volume, which is what we'll do now to create the new volume in the volume folder. In the Create Volume window, we'll enter the new name for the new volume, select the folder that we want the volume in, add any additional notes about the volume. Under Storage Options, select the size. Notice we can change the designation from gigabytes to megabytes or terabytes. Change the snapshot reserve percentage away from default if we would like. We have a Copy ACL button, but we'll cover that a little later. If you wanted to change the default pool assignment, you can change it here. If you need a different sector size, you can change it here. In my case, I want to thin provision of volume, so I will check the box next to thin provisioned volume. And if your environment requires any of these default values to be different, change them at this time, and then click OK. With the new volume selected, we now have a new list of access items. We can edit the settings, which allows us to change most of the items that we recently modified. If you make changes, be sure to click OK. We can set the access type. This allows us to set the read-write or read-only permissions, as well as enable or disable shared access to allow simultaneous connections in the case of a cluster. If you make changes, be sure to click OK. It allows us to create a clone of the volume, at which point you would enter a name for the clone and then click OK. We can also set the volume offline. With the volume offline, the option on the action item now changes to set online. Additionally, with the volume offline, we have an action item option of delete. I'm not going to delete it this time. I will, however, set the volume back online. And we can create a schedule. The schedules can be created for replication or snapshots. In this case, we're just using snapshots. The schedule can be enabled or disabled. Provide a name for the schedule. Select a frequency from the drop-down. Run once, hourly, or daily. Enter a start date if desired. Check the box and enter an end date. The snapshots can be executed at a specific time of the day, or they can be set to repeat at an interval. The interval options are available from the drop-down, and it can be executed between specific times of day. We can also set the maximum number of snapshots to keep. It can be changed from 10, which is the default, to anywhere between 1 and 512. Click on OK to execute the schedule. We can also edit the snapshot policy to change the default mechanisms of snapshotting. I will not make any changes here. We can create a manual snapshot. Simply enter the name, select whether you want the snapshot online or offline, and whether you want the snapshot to be read-write or read-only, and click OK. Replicate volume is covered in the cross-platform replication paper and video, so we'll skip that here. And the access policy groups, access policies, and create basic access point will be covered later in this video. We can, however, move the volume to a different folder if we would like. In this case, we have only one folder, so we can't move it. One thing that I can do is expand a volume by editing the settings. In this case, I'm going to expand this by 50%. It verifies that you have a snapshot either created or it will create one for you. I'll have it create one for me. This provides you the latest up-to-date snapshot prior to the expansion of the volume. And click OK. And now our volume is at 150 gig rather than 100 gig. Additional information shown with the volume selected. In the lower section of the screen is a summary tab that gives the general information as well as volume space, snapshot space, and volume distribution across members. The Schedules tab will show all of the schedules that are applied to this volume, in this case the hourly snapshot schedule that we created. Access, which will show any access policy groups, access policies, or basic access points that have access to the volume, which we have not yet created. The Connections tab will show any servers that are currently connected to the volume, as well as the volume iSCSI information. And the Snapshots tab will show all of the snapshots that exist for this volume. By selecting one of the snapshots listed in the Snapshots tab, we're presented with new action items for the snapshot itself. We can edit the settings, which allows us to change the name, change the description, change the public alias information, allow simultaneous connections, and change the read-write permissions if we want. If you make any changes, be sure to click OK. Additionally, we can set the snapshot to online, and we can set the snapshot back to offline. We can also restore the volume. This will enable us to restore the point in time from the snapshot back to the original volume. This checkbox allows us to set the volume online after the restore is complete. In this case, I'm going to cancel. And lastly, we can delete the snapshot. And on to access control. By selecting the plus sign next to access, it opens up not only the hierarchy of the access object, it also shows us the already configured access policy groups, access policies, iSCSI authentication information, as well as any local CHAP accounts. The items that we'll cover on the action items list are create access policies and create access policy groups. They can be done in either order, but in this case, we'll start with creating an access policy. Enter a name for the access policy, enter a description, and then click on the Create in the Access Points area. Enter a description for the access point, and then complete at least one of the following fields: the CHAP account information, the iSCSI initiator information, or an IPv4 address. In this case, I'll use an iSCSI initiator, and click OK, and click OK again. Now our new policy shows up under our access policies in the hierarchy. We click back on the access object itself. We will now see our Win01 policy here. Now we'll create an access policy group because I want this Windows server to be part of a cluster. Policy groups enable access to volumes from multiple servers at one time, and it makes it a little easier. Enter a name for the access policy group, enter a description if you'd like, and click on Add Access Policies. In this case, I've only created one of the access policies for one of the servers. I'll have to add the other one later. Select the policy, Notice, if we wanted to, we could create additional access policies here, and click OK. Click OK again, and back to the access object. And notice we have an access policy group as well as our access policy. Now that both volumes and access policies are in place, servers can be granted access to the volumes. By selecting either an access policy group or an access policy, we will get new action items. The action items are Edit Settings, Add Volumes, and Delete. In this case, we want to add volumes. Select a volume from the list that we want to add. I will just select the clone that we made of Volume 1, and then select which access policy group targets we want, volumes and snapshots, volumes only, or snapshots only, and click OK. Our server now has access to this volume. Additionally, we can select a volume from the volume list, and if we go to the Access tab, we can click Add on the access policy groups, and we can select our policy group from the list. Notice we have the same options for the access policy group targets, volumes and snapshots, volumes only, or snapshots only, and click OK. Removing access to a volume can be done either by removing access policy groups or access policies from the volume, or by removing the volume from the access policy group or access policy. In this case, we'll take one of them away from the volume. We'll remove the group as shown here, select the access policy group we wish to remove, and click OK. And for the other volume, we'll go to the access policy groups, select the access policy group itself, and remove volumes. Select the volume we want to get rid of, and click OK. We now have removed all access to both of these volumes. Volumes can also be deleted once you're completed with them. As mentioned previously, the volume must be offline in order to delete it. I'm going to go ahead and set this volume offline. Verify I'm setting it offline. And now any action items, I'll click on Delete and OK. If I had deleted that volume in error, it can be retrieved via the recycle bin. Click on the recycle bin, select the volume, right-click, and select Restore Volume. It'll be asked for a name. We'll keep the original name, and click OK. Now in the Windows Volumes folder, our volume is now back in place with the status of offline. If we want to completely remove it, we can delete the volume again. Again, click on the recycle bin, right-click the volume, and we can click Delete. And this will permanently delete the volume, and click OK. And as a last piece of management, for the PS part of the Dell Storage Manager videos, if we are no longer going to manage this PS group, we can remove it from Dell Storage Manager by right-clicking on the group itself and click Delete. This will verify that we want to delete the management of this PS group. It does not delete the group itself, it just deletes it from the Dell Storage Manager environment. And click OK. And the PS group we've been working with is now gone from the Dell Storage Manager environment. Thanks for watching Dell Storage Manager Day-to-Day Management Part 1 PS Group Management. Please follow the included links for additional documents and videos related to the new capabilities of Dell Storage Manager.